Depois eu conto assim também do vestido atrás do
Like 7 months of our
Okay, one more minute and we'll get started.
Yeah, I know. She was going up.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Southfield Neighborhood Association Candidates Night. Before we get started, I wanted to say thank you to Faring Way, especially to Joyce. Joyce, where are you? Raise your hand. Joyce is always helpful with every neighborhood event that we have. We're so grateful. I want to give a shout out to the sound team who set up tonight. Raise your hands. Over there. I want to thank our photographer. He's not here, but his assistant is. It's a neighborhood resident, and it's called Blue Hut Photography. And they actually he lives in Dorset Park. I want to thank him for volunteering his services. I want to give a shout out also to Joyce once again. She's on our Southfield Landowners Association Board of Directors. We also have John Gingrich, who's not here tonight. We have our Southfield Redevelopment Authority Board. Monica Horan, I don't know if she's here. She was going to be here tonight. David Rubin would have been here, but he's at a very important community meeting in Rockland. Hopefully everything will move forward in Rockland like it did in Weymouth and Abington. We have a couple of neighborhood association board members here. We have Lisa, raise your hand, Muskin, and Paula. Okay, over there, and Paula over there. And I really want to thank a group of young residents that we have who have been helping so much in the neighborhood. I'm so proud of these young people. They're the future of our community. We have Darsh, who's going to be asking the questions tonight, because whatever you guys do here in Weymouth is really going to impact our future leaders, okay? So let me give a shout out to Adya, Ashka, Shrika, and Darsh. Attends Boston College High. He's a member of the Model UN student government. He runs cross country. He plays soccer. He plays the guitar, plays tennis. I mean, he's very busy. And last night the kids came over. We rehearsed this, so please be patient with us. He's going to be moderating with me. And I really want to give a big shout out to our Mayor Bob Headland, and the existing town council people we have who worked so hard with us this last spring. We are so grateful that you passed the rezoning. Thank you very much. And of course, we're grateful for our new wonderful master developer, Brookfield Properties. We have some hats out in the hall. If you didn't get one, please grab one. We were going to give them out at our ice cream social, but we got rained out. So first I'm going to, I want to let you guys know that all the questions we came up in advance by a group of Union Point residents. I'm going to start with, I'm going to give an introduction of Mayor Headland and his opponent Ed Cohen, and then Darsh is going to ask them some questions, and then we're going to ask some questions of our town councilman, and we'll go from there. Okay, so Mayor Bob Headland began his career in politics very early. He ran for state senate in 90 and held his seat for Plymouth and Norfolk counties for several years. Then he had a little break and was a state senator from 1995 to 2016. He was elected mayor of Weymouth in 2015 with 70% of the vote. He won re-election in 2019 with 85% of the vote and is currently running for his third term. During his career, Mayor Headland has had the support and endorsements of a ton of different labor unions and advocacy groups, including the Massachusetts Teachers Association, Nurses Association, Carpenters Union, Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, unions representing police, fire, the service union, wood framers, etc. Too many to list. The mayor has lived in several areas of Weymouth, and currently you live over, what street is it, Long?
Moved from there.
Oh, he's moved.
Now I'm on Essex Heights Drive.
Okay, he's in a different place. But he has lived here since 1987. He attended Wentworth Institute of Technology, Quincy College, and the University of Massachusetts at Boston. He also attended school with Phil's younger brother back in the day. So,
More importantly than that, had his dad as a teacher.
okay.
So when I screw up tonight, you blame him.
Okay, and our candidate who's running against Mayor Headland is Ed Cohen. He's a Marine Corps combat veteran who used to live in North Weymouth and recently purchased his first home in the Landing on Wilson Avenue. While in the Marine Corps, he attained a high-level security clearance after being selected for Presidential Guard duty. He was deployed twice to the Middle East in the Marine Corps Infantry. He's a self-employed entrepreneur and investor. This is Ed's second time running for mayor. So now I'm going to turn it over to Darsh, and he's going to ask some questions of Mr. Cohen and the mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Cohen, what knowledge, skills, and experience do you possess that makes you believe that you are qualified to serve as the mayor of a city with over 60,000 residents?
That's a good question.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You can get the microphone.
So, all right. So that's a good question. And to be honest, it's not. I'm a leader. I've led men.
Hold the mic closer, please.
I'm a leader, and is that better?
Yeah. All right.
I'm a leader, but it's not so much. And I've learned a lot in business and traveling and all around the world, and it's not so much that. It's that I know that everything that we need to succeed here in Weymouth is already here. It's sitting in these crowds right here. It's out in town. I want to bring the best. I want to use the best, the people with the most knowledge of our town government that are already working in our town. I want to retain all that, and then through hiring processes, I want to hire the best legislators, the best people in municipal finance and government. I want to use the. You all know the town, but much better than I do. I want to harness that. I want to use the knowledge that we already have. With my administration would not be about me making all the decisions. I believe we have that now. To be honest, not an attack. I don't mean to attack. It's just a different style of an approach. My approach, instead of being a top-down mayor, would be more of a supporting mayor. How can we use the mayor's office to help the residents in town, the students, work with the United School Committee, Town Council, and Mayor's office? I want to get us all on the same page, and I want to use the people that know this town best. And that's pretty much my answer.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Mayor, you have had numerous successes in your first 2 terms as mayor. What is your vision for the success of Union Point?
I want to try to use my time, if I could, and just pick up on Ed's question that he was asked, because he left one thing out of my bio that I thought made me very qualified and provided a life experience to serve as mayor. And what was left out was I was cut from my JV basketball team, and I was really upset about it. And fallback was I went to work at 15 in a gas station and ended up basically running the gas station alone 28 hours a week. And what I learned in the gas station was probably more than I learned in high school in classes. And with all due respect to Mr. Anderson, from there, an opportunity opened up with a family business that was failing. My grandfather was in his 70s and was going to sell, and I was going to school and decided to try to help him, and ended up running a business for 10 years, starting 1 month shy of my 20th birthday. Subsequent to that, during my legislative career, opened up 3 businesses, helped set up a former employee of mine, opened up a truck repair business in Hingham, and with a partner opened up 2 restaurants in Braintree. So the private sector blend, along with the fact that I represented 8 communities in the Senate, and saw what worked best in the various communities, and we talked a lot about that 8 years ago, but those were important to help me become the mayor that I've become. In terms of a vision, it was really interesting when I was driving over here. I was thinking about when we were here 8 years ago, myself and then Mayor Kay, and we were talking about a vision. Now, the vision I was talking about then was when I didn't have the experience as being mayor. And I know you guys had the great forum that night. I found it recently on YouTube, and it's really fascinating to go back and see the vision that I was talking about has really taken shape in many ways. I hope we have a chance to talk about that tonight. But moving into the third term, the vision I have, first and foremost, obviously, is what's going to happen here at Union Point. That's at the top of the list. This is the longest delayed project that is a base closure from the 1995 BRAC closure process. Ironically, I don't think I ever told this story here, but ironically, back in 2018, I was invited to a dinner at the National Archives, a tribute to Faith Whittlesey, who had been the U.S. ambassador to Switzerland. She had some local ties, and there was a gentleman sitting next to me, and I said, "What do you do?" And he was an admiral, retired admiral. And he said, "Yeah, I retired after I finished off the BRAC process." I said, "You're familiar with South Weymouth Naval Air Station?" He said, "Yeah, I flew in and out of there multiple times." He goes, "You know, that's the last remaining undeveloped BRAC piece out there." I said, "Yeah, I'm the mayor of the town. I'm well aware of that." It was quite the small world story. That was the week we were getting rid of Kyle Corkum, if you remember, back in 18. So I think the top of the list is the vision is to see this through. Corkum I inherited when I was mayor, so I'm sort of happy to say, and I can't take credit for it, but I'm happy to say that this is the first master developer that's in place since I've become mayor, and thus far from what we've seen, they've had their act together. That and finishing off a lot of projects that are underway that I hope I have the chance to talk about that aren't specific to Union Point. But this is my second visit here today. I was here dealing with a problem and also delivering a little bit of good news that's in the works for Union Point, in my opinion. Oftentimes when I think it's good news, though, we have people on both sides of the issue that think it's not good news, like simple things like the placement of a crosswalk or stuff like that. We find that there's people on different sides of the issue often. But I know I'm running out of time on this one, but I hope to talk about picking up where we left off 8 years ago and some of the issues we talked back then, and where are we now after those 8 years in office.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Cohen, what is your vision for Weymouth, and how does it differ from what has occurred over the last 8 years under the Headland administration?
So my approach, Weymouth used to be a strongly union town, and I recognize that you can't start from having not a ton of union jobs and then go to all union jobs overnight. But I would be a strongly pro-union mayor. From teachers' unions to firefighters are in unions, police are in unions, just unions specifically. Like, and like I said, also I wanna use the people that know this town best. I don't think I know everything. I wanna learn. I'm hungry. I know. My candidacy isn't about. It's not about my opponent. It's about the people, really. The town. I'm a leader. I'm a fighter. I want to fight for you all. And it's not about tearing down an opponent. It's about offering a different vision for the future of Weymouth. And you can admit to some improvements in some areas in town, and I would not say that there haven't been, like I said before, but that doesn't mean that you can admit at the same time that there have been some improvements, and also admit that we need a new mayor with a new future and new ideas, someone who wants to use the mayor's office to help the town, to help the people. Like I said before, like I would never claim to know everything, but I think we need responsible development. I think Weymouth could truly use a fresh set of eyes in the mayor's office, a fresh set of eyes looking at at some of these projects, some of the developments. Are we doing it for the right reason? Should we all those questions. I think we could really, it's really valuable to have a fresh set of eyes on all the development in town, especially right now. And like I said, you can admit some successes, but I would be a pro-union mayor, strongly pro-union,
Thank you
and
very
I'm a
much.
fighter.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our town councilors, and I want to explain for the race for town, for at-large town councilors, there are 5 seats. One of the sitting town councilperson is not running again. So we have 4 who are currently serving us, and then we have 2 who would like to, who are running as new candidates. So I'm going to give a brief overview of each of the town councilors, starting with Mike Melise, who is a longtime Weymouth resident from a large Weymouth family, and he's been a member of the local 369 Utility Workers of America for 27 years. He's a local realtor, very successful, I might say, with his own real estate company. He's been a Weymouth councilor at large for 23 years. On the town council, Mike currently serves as vice president, chairman of the council's budget committee, chairman of Parks and Recreation Committee, and vice chair of the rules committee. Moving on, sitting next to him, we have Greg Shanahan. He's currently a councilor at large, elected in 2021, where he serves on the budget management, economic development, public safety, and public works committees. And he's the appointed town council representative on the Energy Advisory Committee. He first was elected to the town council as a District 1 councilor from 2004 to 2008. He served on various committees during that time. I'm not going to read them. There's just way too many. He has a lot of experience. He earned his undergraduate degree in political science and an MPA from the John W. McCormick School of Public Policy and a postgrad at UMass. He has a very lengthy public experience as a public servant, which is wonderful. He's worked on the local, county, and state level as operations director at the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, executive administrator of the Norfolk County Register of Deeds, assistant director of Massachusetts State Lottery, send some money our way, and his current role as director of operations in the Massachusetts State Treasurer's Office. Moving down the line, we have Chris Heffernan. I think he is the youngest member of the town council. Can I say that? Yes. He graduated from Weymouth High in 2012 and Suffolk University with a Bachelor and a Master's of Art in Government. He has served as an at-large counselor since 2018, and he works as a program coordinator for the Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security. Okay. Sadly, the next town council person who should be here is Fred Happel. He texted me today. He has a really bad case of pneumonia and he's in bed. So at the end of tonight, I'm going to read his statement so that you guys can hear from him. He feels really bad that he can't be here. So now we have 2 candidates. We have Allison Dossett, and she is a 30-year resident of Weymouth, and she's been very active in the town as the communications coordinator, Friends of Fennel, member of the Four River Residents Against the Compressor Station and the Columbian Cypress Coalition. She is a volunteer at Sacred Heart Church and at the Vincent de Paul Society and founder of the Old Weymouth Families Project. She attended Boston Latin School and received her bachelor's from Southern New Hampshire University. She has over 36 years experience working in the healthcare industry as an insurance billing specialist, program coordinator, and division administrator. And finally, we have Rick Coughlin, who is a 3rd-generation Weymouth resident. He's been active in the town for years as a town meeting member, a member of the Fair Housing Commission and its Affordable Housing Subcommittee. He was president of the Weymouth Music Parents Association for years, and he continues to be active in his East Weymouth neighborhood. He served in the Massachusetts National Guard and Army Reserves for 6 years toward the end of the Vietnam era. He's been a residential real estate broker in Weymouth for the past 40 years and owns his own company. I'm going to turn it back over to Dar. She has some questions. Okay.
A question for Mr. Coughlin and Ms. Dossett. Please state how you have supported Union Point in the past and how you will support us in the future. Ms. Dossett, you can answer first.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. I actually work with a group of people who are very environmentally conscious and have been actually participating in research up here at the base and monitoring the Navy cleanup. This has to do with PFAS chemicals, which we know have been at high levels in at least one of the wells up here. And the objective there is that we will get as much information as we can so that we can help feed that info up to the town council and the mayor's office so that they are aware of some of the environmental issues that need to be addressed up here before any development should begin. But the good news is that we're in touch with the Navy on a fairly regular basis, and they have been very forthcoming with some of the work that they've done. So I feel good about what they're doing. I wish it were a bit speedier, but I wish they could work with test. So I wish that the work that could go a little bit more quickly, but it is what it is, and they are very active, and of course we'll continue to monitor that, so that when the time does come to break ground up here for development, there won't be any surprises, and we'll be ready to go.
Okay, can I just stop right there and ask you, Allison, who is the group of people who are involved in researching PFAS on the base?
This would be Friends of Fennell, and then there are some local residents who are also part of that, who are not necessarily part of Friends of Fennell.
Okay, can I ask why Friends of Fennell is researching issues on Union Point?
It's not researching issues on Union Point per se. This was an environmental issue that preceded the development. In fact, 20-something years ago, one of the our group was originally called Save Open Spaces. And so there was a great interest in potentially any of the open space that might be available up here. But the folks that have been working on this for decades now have been through the court system to ensure that this space is properly cleaned, and the Navy has been responsive.
Okay, so this is a private group of citizens
Correct.
involved? Correct. Okay, thank you. Rick?
And I'm sorry, would you repeat the question, please?
Please state how you have supported Union Point in the past and how you will support us in the future.
Thanks for the question. And I'm not sure what's going on the mic. I'm not sure if I'm too far away from the...
We can hear you.
Okay. First of all, I'm impressed with the number of young people who are involved with this thing, and I applaud you, because too much apathy is out there with younger people, especially as they get to be approaching voting age. And so I'm thrilled to see younger people coming out, getting involved, getting to know what the issues are prior to reaching voting age itself. In terms of supporting Union Point, my support has not been as much on an official basis. I've been, again, throughout Weymouth my entire life. I remember it as an air base. I remember coming to air shows here. A good friend of mine was the XO here at the base before it closed. And when it closed, I was really paying attention to what was going on. And quite frankly, as it started developing, I'm thrilled. I've sold a few homes that are up here. I've known people who are living here, and to a person, every person that I've spoken to here at the Point, Southfield before this, has been thrilled living here. I want to see that continue. I want to see the development continue. I want to see that there's more encouragement for small businesses. And part of that is coming back to you people and letting you understand just what's involved. One of the things that comes up with commercial is you need a bit of a core base before you can get commercial to move in. I was talking to somebody earlier this evening and mentioning that you're not going to have donut shops that are going to be opening up here within the Point itself. People aren't going to come off of 18, come to a donut shop, and then go back out to 18 to go to work or wherever they're going to go. We need that core base here where people can end up leaving here, getting their coffee as they go out. And so that's what we're going to end up needing to do, is we need that core base. And we're starting to get to that point right now. Now the point for the council, for the mayor, for the rest of the people in Weymouth is to let people know that indeed Union Point is indeed part of Weymouth. Indeed, right now there's close to 5% of the population of Weymouth is right here at Union Point. It's important to get that message out. And once we can start getting that out, we're going to start getting some of that smaller business development. At that point, we'll start getting more of the grocery stores that are coming in. We'll get the restaurants that are coming in, and that'll attract more people coming off of the highway. I love the sports field that's over here. My grandson plays baseball over there, has had games over there, and so I love seeing that. All this, along with what's happened with our parks, and I know this is not specific to Union Point, but with the parks and ball fields throughout the town, that's giving some exposure to Weymouth that we may not get. I had an assistant who had kids who were, high school kids who were in travel soccer teams, and I've told the story a dozen times before, if not more, and some people are sick of hearing me say it. But she's standing next to a guy from Dover over at Level Field by the Pingree School over in East Weymouth. And this guy from Dover is standing there saying, look at these fields. Why don't we have fields like this? Dover is one of the wealthiest communities that there are in the state. And he's wondering why their town doesn't have soccer fields like Weymouth has. These people who had ignored Weymouth in the past, or people who would settle for Weymouth rather than making it a destination, are now looking at Weymouth and saying, this is a place to come. I want to encourage that and make that known. I'm going to use my position, frankly, as a bully pulpit for that.
Okay, I'm sorry, at the beginning I forgot to give a shout out to our own town councilman, John Abbott. He's not up here with the others because he's running unopposed. John has done an excellent job advocating for us. We are very grateful to have you here tonight. Thank you. Back to Darsh.
This is a question for everyone. The redevelopment of Southfield will be the most reviewed project in the history of Weymouth, including a full MEPA application and review, permitting and/or oversight by MassDOT, EPA, Mass DEP, Natural Heritage, U.S. Navy, National Park Service, the SRA, acting as a planning and conservation board, and many, many others. Weymouth Planning, DPW, Conservation Board, and Public Safety Departments will review site plans. The Weymouth Building Department will issue building permits. The Weymouth Town Council has also formed a subcommittee to peer review and comment on the prospective MEPA filing. Here is the question. What if any additional layers of review by the Town Council would you propose, and why? We will go down the table in order to answer. You can use up to 3 minutes to answer, and don't feel like you have to use all this time.
Do you guys want to answer?
Whatever you want.
Yes, I would like to hear from Ed and from the mayor for that.
Do you want to go first? Sure. So personally, I don't know the specific, I don't know the specific level of review that you're specifically asking for, but what I'm going to say is this. I think that the next mayor of Weymouth should have a major role in overseeing the development of Union Point personally, like set up a chair for the mayor here, because it's that important, honestly. To have I mean, when I ran it 4 years ago, I mentioned it, like, to have a developer, L-Star, walk away with millions of dollars of subcontractor money, and then there's no investigation that I know of any investigation of that. I think, I just think that you need a mayor with a direct focus on Union Point itself and the growth of Union Point, the development of Union Point. I think the next mayor wins. Like, this is a major priority for me. It would be for me. And I would tell you, as mayor, you would have an ally in that fight, someone who's approachable and accessible and would fight for you.
Thank you.
That's what I would say about it.
Thank you. Let me just repeat the question because there was a lot to it.
Yes.
I'll repeat it.
Should have written it down.
You know what I said, right?
Well, the question was, what additional level would the council involve themselves in, I believe, in addition to the committee that they've formed? We've stated that we welcome the formation of the committee. It's going to be an additional way that we're going to regularly communicate what the administration is doing as the master developer moves forward in the process. It's a vehicle to keep the council further apprised. So I won't dictate to them what I think additionally they should be doing. I'll weigh in later if there's things they shouldn't be doing, but one thing I do want to point out in terms of, and you outlined the regulatory and oversight process pretty well in the question, but I'll just say one of the things that we did when I came in, and I have to give credit to department head, Bob Luongo, the head of our planning department, who's in the audience here tonight. I don't want him being confused with a Faring Way resident. No. He and I like to joke, but he's sitting there in the third row in the middle. And one of the things that we did when we came in was change the way the town of Weymouth reviewed development projects. It was a willy-nilly process before. It's, I won't say streamlined necessarily, although it is streamlined, but what we do is we have what's called a department head meeting, where we bring every department head together to look at every project simultaneously. Not having a developer sending plans one way and then to another department. It's an opportunity for the department heads to put their heads together. And I sat in most of those department head meetings with proposed projects, some of which have been approved here in town, some of which underwent many, many changes, some of which we chased away out of town that we felt weren't appropriate. We've had tremendous success with interest in Weymouth, not just because of the improvements that Rick talked about, but because of the rezoning that we undertook. And we talked about vision earlier, and I don't know if I'm going to get another bite at the apple on this, but one of the things I talked about when we were laying out a vision 8 years ago, and things I heard from voters on, was the decrepit nature of our commercial corridors. And it took a rezoning effort. The council agreed with us on, I believe we got almost a unanimous vote, if not a 10-to-1 vote, but it's proved successful. And a lot of those blighted properties are gone. Now, as that relates to Union Point, that department head process we implemented, I know firsthand from witnessing in meetings how that additional level of oversight that under the SRA enabling legislation that the Weymouth Planning Department necessarily did not have oversight on, but we insisted on oversight. And I saw firsthand how that process led to changes in a couple of the developments that have gone up here. Some of it's not real aesthetic or sexy, but public safety related changes in how the water delivery system for fire protection was laid out. I remember that one being discussed heavily. They picked up on areas where developers here in Union Point were going to cut corners on sidewalks, for instance, layout of sidewalks. So that process, I think, has been enhanced since we came into office, and you covered it pretty thoroughly. I can't think of many more regulatory entities that we can insert into the process because it's pretty darn thorough right now. I can remember back in the day when we were doing when I was in the legislature, when we were doing the enabling legislation and looking at the sign-up sheet of all the regulatory bodies and governmental entities that were involved in this. And I think there was one meeting that there were 40 different, if you include legislators and things like that, I think there were 40 different entities. So I think we're well covered right now, and I think with this master developer that is proving to be extremely competent, we are going in the right direction.
Okay, I just want to say thank you very much for that response, and everybody can have up to 3 minutes to respond, and you don't have to use all that time. No pressure.
Thank you. I think like the mayor stated, we've taken proactive effect, the council, on this. Over the last year, there's been a lot of changes up here. We did have a unanimous vote on the changing of the zoning up here, and we also had unanimous on the non-changing of the zoning for the smaller portion. I feel that the town council has their thumb on things up here. The big step was this 5-minute committee that we just added. Councilor Abbott is the chairman of that committee. They'll keep a close watch from what's going on up here. And I believe that, what you have up here too is great. The committees that are calling us, Heidi, our phones were going off the hook from everybody up here. And it was great to give your views on what the town council, we want to know what you feel and what you need up here, and we'll review it. We work really strong together. We have the ordinance committee that reviews things with the planning committee. So we're on top of things. We want to hear from you, and we want the best things up here to happen. And I think we're on the fast track now, which is great.
How's that with the microphone, all right? I usually don't need a microphone, so I'm not that comfortable with one. But no, I agree with everything Councilor Melise just said. This is an incredibly large project, so the amount of federal, state, and local oversight is going to be overwhelming. I was on the council the last time we went through this dance, some 16 some odd years ago, and I could tell you there was a lot of information coming at the town council, the administration, And it was all coming from these sort of outside agencies. And I would make the case that there really isn't, while they have a lot of expertise at the state and federal level, there really isn't anybody who understands the project needs, the area needs more than your local bodies, the administration, the Mayor Headland's staff, the town council, the various committees. I mean, there's going to be so many of our council committees that are going to be involved in this. Like Councilor Malik said, you know, ordinance, DPW is going to play a big part in it, environmental is going to play a big part in it. We have that great committee that they just formed that has some incredible talent on it coming from the council. But just to echo what Councilor Malik said in an answer to the question, and I'm trying so hard to stay under 3 minutes, but
You're at 1 minute, 10 seconds.
I'm doing all right. If I keep it under 2, it's going to be a personal record, Heidi. So I would say that the big, while it's not a formalized group, the biggest group that can be a part of this is the residents, the citizens, not just the folks up here, but the folks across the town. This is going to be potentially the biggest project that the town has ever seen and ever will see. And I can tell you, and I think most of my fellow incumbents will tell you, it is so incredibly helpful when you get calls from people in the neighborhood, on the site, telling you what's impacting them, what they'd like to see happen. And when it comes to decision-making time, you're much more confident. And that's what we're here to do, and that's what you can count on me. So I appreciate the question, and that's 2 minutes. Record. All right.
Well, I want to thank Heidi and our moderator this evening, as well as the association for hosting this, and thank you to all of you for turning out. This is an amazing turnout. I'll say, this one seems to work better. So, as someone who's lived in South Weymouth my entire life, as somebody who's lived on a property that directly abuts this property, or directly abuts Union Point, I've seen many master developers come through. I've seen so many ideas for this project that have not come to fruition. That needs to stop. When this base was decommissioned in 1996, I was a year and a half old. I'm 29 years old right now. I don't want to drive through here when I'm 50 and still see nothing coming to fruition. We have to get there. We have to get there. I think this is the team that can do that. I have been proud to watch us make leaps and bounds over the last few years. During the Great Recession, this project sat. Oh. We'll try it again. Some interference. Start over. This project faced the realities of a Great Recession that it didn't look like it was ever going to come to fruition. But we have made leaps and bounds in the time that in the last few years, in the last 5 or 6 years. We now have the bones of a great project. We have to build it out and get ready for its future. And to answer the question, who can be involved and how can we enhance the involvement? I think involving the people of Union Point, increase dialogue between our town council and the residents, making sure that we are all on the same page, and making sure that when situations arise where you need our support, that we are always there for you, and I believe we always will be. Thank you very much.
So hopefully this will work. As Heidi mentioned, I've been in the healthcare industry for most of my working life, and one of the things that I'm particularly interested in is potentially the base, Union Point, having some element of what they refer to as the medical mecca coming to the South Shore, and which I see Weymouth as a very big part of. Now, in talking to Mr. Tuhig, he's commented at meetings that some of these facilities, like Centers for Life Sciences, require 1 million gallons of water a day. But if the water is free flowing through MWRA or some other source, I wonder if potentially that might be an option as an additional part of what's happening up here. I do know that there's a great need. I work in research and innovation, and our scientists are always searching for lab space. And so typically they want lab space where they also have a facility close by where they can see patients on whom they're perhaps running experiments on, or treating. And so I do see that as the town moves towards a medical role for the South Shore, that potentially Union Point could play some part in that. That's more so part of my wish list, but would love to see something like that happen. And another thing that I'd love to see in terms of the council moving forward with is some kind of first response opportunity up here So for example, if you've been on Route 18, and we're grateful that it was widened, but you can't get caught in a gridlock in the light cycles. And that worries me greatly. I'm not an ER nurse, but I'm around ER nurses constantly, and I would be very concerned about the potential for first responders actually getting in here, especially with the number of apartments that they're proposing. So I do think that the council should make it part of its pursuit over the next year or two to see where we can crowbar some kind of first response, either strategically placed vehicles, or I don't want to speculate if you can have sort of a small, I don't know what they do in Westwood, but potentially something along those lines where we can reassure the residents that their needs will be met in times of an emergency. So that's sort of what I think about the base and some work that the council could do in the future to make it even better than is being proposed. Thank you.
I do have to tell you that philosophically, I cringe whenever I hear the phrase, what more levels of review and approval can we add? There's an old saying that says, if you really don't want to work, hold a meeting. You can have coffee, you can have donuts, you can meet friends, and nothing gets done. And unfortunately, I think that that's one of the things that tends to happen. I think that the question, if I remember correctly, and I believe me, I don't necessarily trust my memory, was that what additional levels of review might be proposed that would be coming from the town council. And I've just got to say, oh, please help me. Truly, I think that the idea of having some oversight and some review of what's happening is great. Having some input is great. But to put a level of review to say it goes no further until it hits this desk too, boy, I'll tell you, it's a killer. Think about this. I think it was quoted, there was something like 40 different, there were 40 different entities that are overseeing this now. Oh my goodness, it's a killer. Think about this. If each one takes 6 months, we're looking at 20 years of review. Truly, before anything gets done. It's no wonder. God help you, you won't be 50, Chris. You'll be retired. I'm not going to go further, but the truth is that I think that what we need to do is more encouragement. I love the idea of having more medical facilities that are research facilities in here. In terms of water, I think that once we get ourselves connected to MWRA, and I do think that that's something that we need to do. Not right now, we've got water. We've got water pretty much to take care of a lot of what's happening here and throughout the town. That's not the issue, it's what happens 10 years, 15, 20 years. What happens when you guys are now having kids and raising your kids in this town, which you will do.
What happens? Can I stop you there? Because water is actually going to be one of our next questions. So,
okay, so I'll stop there and just say that
you answered the question great about extra layers in the process.
Well, the last thing I will say is that and echoing what was said earlier too, I truly believe that the best results not only don't so much come from the top down, they're going to come from the bottom up. You guys live here. You know what you want. You know what some of the needs are before we do. The way that the council finds out is what's needed is because you guys are calling the council and saying, hey, what's going on with? I'm looking to hear from you guys and to really get that sort of input in order to be able to move forward with this project.
Thank you.
Question from Mr. Coughlin and Ms. Dossett. As a teenager, I have noticed that politicians don't always get along. It is clear that the only way to move forward at every level of government is to compromise. How do you plan to work with the current executive administration and other town councilors to form viable partnerships on the issues that are important to Union Point and Weymouth?
Well, I've had the great privilege of presenting before the council, and I've found that it has been a great experience to go before them and propose, for example, we had a presentation about water a few months ago. In the past, members of the community have proposed about, folks have presented about just their vision of environmental matters that they think should be addressed, particularly folks who are interested in the herring runs. So I think that that sort of collaboration has already existed for me as a person in the community. I do believe that we have a lot of conversations that need to take place in terms of representing the interests of homeowners, particularly those in the residential R1 districting, who do feel currently that there is some encroachment upon their R1 districting, and we're hoping development up here at the base will alleviate the need for so much of that down in the town of Weymouth. So those are conversations that I look forward to having with the administration and with the council as we move forward, and that seems to be something that we have had a lot of input from different parts of the community, that we need someone to be an advocate for their needs, as oftentimes they don't feel that they're heard, particularly those in residentially zoned space. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration and dialogue, and I look forward to that. And like I say, I've already experienced that as a citizen with the council.
So again, I believe the question is where politicians especially don't always get along. And I think that it's not just politicians, I think it's people in general. I've always said too that if everybody agrees, if everybody agrees, you don't need everybody, is the thing. So the truth is that collaboration is what I do. As I mentioned before, I've been a real estate agent throughout Weymouth and the South Shore for over 40 years. I've had my own company for over 30 years now. Real estate agents, we collaborate. We bring two opposing sides together to get to a mutually agreeable solution in terms of people being able to get their homes. Mike can attest to this as well. This is what I do. And I would certainly bring those skills to the council, as well as I work with the administration, with the various town departments, with the individual councilors. And I will tell you, there will be conflict that will end up happening. That's just life. The question is that how are you going to be resolving that? And that's where my skill set lies, frankly.
Okay, thank you very much. And Darsh, we have the next question. And this is for everybody. You can ask the question and then I'll kind of summarize it.
It is understood municipal infrastructure to include water and sewer need to be addressed. These issues have been studied to death. What is your view on what remains to be done? And what would you be open to Weymouth becoming an MWRA water service community, just as it is a MWRA sewer water community?
We'll start here.
I don't have a microphone. All right, so Weymouth does need a permanent water source. I would support joining the MWRA. As I've been knocking doors though, I've been talking to a lot of people, and some people are really worried that while the quality of water may be better, that the price of the water, that it's going to be on them to cover that. I think I would support joining the MWRA, especially for the level of the amount of development that we're doing in town. We need to do that, I believe. But if it is going to cost more on the regular people of this town, that cost increase should be offset elsewhere, I believe. And if I'm your mayor, I will work with the town council to make sure that we can offset that in some way. Not just joining the MWRA though. If you're talking about joining the MWRA, I am interested in forming our own utilities as a town, as many other towns have. It sounds expansive and expensive, I understand that. But if it's possible to join the MWRA, then maybe it's possible to join Build and Braintree and cost share and get municipal internet for Weymouth. Cost share with Braintree, share the burden. But anyways, I just wanted to, that's another topic, something else I'm running on. I think that's an issue that we absolutely should study, municipal internet for the town. A lot of other towns surrounding us have it already. If we could do that, I think that would be amazing. I think we should join the MWRA though. And I think we should bring technology in the government. I think we should do a lot of things, but we should do it together with the mayor's office, the town council, the whole town, having a conversation about the development, the infrastructure, all of it. And I'll say in North Weymouth, they built the frack gas compressor station. Not that I would put that on my opponent or anything, but I would fight against that tooth and nail, stuff like that. I'm not talking about.
Thank you. Let's just
I
focus
just-
on water though, please.
I hear you, but I'm just saying, I'm not talking about existing gas compressor stations or anything like that, but we cannot be building new stuff, is my point.
Thank you.
So as we started down the MWRA path, it came as a result, obviously, of the development here at Union Point with the requirement on the developers to identify a water source. As that progress went on, the stars started to align that this was something that we should really look at as an option for the entire town for a whole host of reasons. Aside from quality, when it is rated the best quality municipal water in the country, there were things that were happening at the legislative level and at the MWRA executive board level. For instance, the entrance fee being waived, which is at least a $28 million savings for the town. MWRA has more water than they know what to do with right now. It's spilling over. They're wasting water every day, and they've incentivized communities to join. Now, the problem here in the South Shore is, despite the fact that they have tremendous excess capacity, the ability to get that capacity to the South Shore is somewhat limited because of the infrastructure up in the what leads to the Blue Hills. Basically, those that are first in line to avail themselves of this water are going to be the ones that are successful because of that infrastructure kind of choke point, if you will. For what we need for not only Union Point, but for the entire town, is about what they can spare, given that infrastructure logjam in the Blue Hills. Now, at some point, they will address that. When we decide on the appropriate route, process will then lead to, once our application is completed, the 2-year process is done, the town council will have to approve that final step in the application process for us to join. One of the things that will happen is then the infrastructure will be laid, the pipe will be laid in a fashion that would accommodate communities further south to us down the line if those infrastructure improvements are made over the Blue Hill side. I'll just quote Representative Mariano, the Speaker of the House, who represents part of Weymouth. He said, "This is the most progressive thing that any leader on the South Shore could do right now, and that is convert over to MWRA. The environmental benefits to the community are huge. I encourage, if you haven't seen it, on the WET website, they do have a development update segment on this issue in great detail. I know I only have a couple of minutes. I want to talk about, because of the way the question was phrased, our existing infrastructure here in Weymouth. There's been comments made by one of the candidates for council and described our current infrastructure as decrepit. I inherited, yes, possibly a decrepit system, but the good news is that there's been more investment being made right now in our water and sewer infrastructure than any time in the town's history. This is something that I've been focused on, the council's been focused on. Right now, that had just been completed or in progress, we have 11,958,000, so call it 12 million in water improvements, infrastructure improvements coming here. Many of you at the table, maybe not everyone out here, has driven through Columbian Square. It's a mess, and it's a mess because of most of the underground work that's happening is water and sewer infrastructure work. There's $4 million of that $11 million project is underground. In terms of sewer improvements, actually 3 of the most major sewer improvement projects the town has undertaken are happening right now. We have upgrades at 2 different pump stations, and we have the connector project that handles about 50% of the town's waste right now, that has a choke point and idle well that's been backing up, causing a sewer backup for decades. That project's been kicked down the road, the can's been kicked down the road. We are funding that. We've been lucky that we've been able to apply some of the ARPA money to that. And I just have to really address the utility question. Ed brought this up at a previous candidate night, and just to make it very clear, there's a better chance of NASA coming here and putting him and I in a rocket and having us land on Mars and set up camp there than this ever happening. Number one, it's illegal. We can't even join BELD. Okay, that's illegal under our current utility regulations. I was part of the Utility Deregulation Conference Committee when the laws somewhat changed on this. It is impossible, not virtually impossible. It's impossible for any community right now, really, to set up their own municipal power system. And if we were to do that, look at Hingham, that took over, Hingham and Hall took over a private water company, okay? They had to buy the infrastructure. The largest taxpayer in Weymouth is National Grid. we would be put into bankruptcy if somehow we were to try to pay for the infrastructure that they have in the town to take it over. Even if we wanted to create our own delivery system as opposed to a generator, we can't build a new power plant. So it's just not something that any credible candidate for any office here in Weymouth should throw out there and lead people to believe that it's something that is something that could actually happen, because it cannot. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Okay, I really appreciate it. I have a question for you, Mayor. And because people are talking about this, people who are not involved in the process, and I believe I saw it on one of the candidates' forms. We have an MWRA application. It has been paid for by, I believe, the developer, correct?
So, well, I left out, I said there's a lot of state incentives. One of the important incentives was Representative Mariano was able to secure $360,000 to look at feasibility for getting the water down, not only to Weymouth, but further south of us, but it was really geared for Weymouth. That saved us a lot of money. The application process, application fee has been split with the town and the developer.
Right.
It's been split.
So I guess my question is, there are people who are not involved in this process that seem to think that we need to have more community involvement and we need questions answered, when all those questions are going to be answered when the application moves forward and they start studying this. You're not going to know all the information until the study and the application moves forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say that's correct, but I would also say that the information we put forward at the town council meeting, and it was a rather lengthy meeting, we heard from environmental experts, we heard from the Speaker of the House, who was there for 2.5 hours explaining some of the state perspective on this. And we had our consultants. By the way, the consultants that are working on this application for us have been very involved in the community for a long time. They have been the town's environmental consultants now since the town's charter change, but also were engaged with Union Point, looking at the type of improvements that had to be made to accommodate the development here at Union Point. So they've worn a number of hats thus far. They have a great institutional knowledge of how those water and sewer systems work in Weymouth. And I think there's a lot of information that have been put out actually earlier than it needed to be, because what you say is correct. The application project, the application process, that's a 2-year process that does address all of those questions, whether it's environmental, whether it's alternative routes. Everything is in that nice bundle, which is why that is when these folks then have the bite of the apple to have a final say, yay or nay. I mean, even as administration, once we get that information, who knows, we could identify something that would cause us to want to back off. I think that's highly unlikely, but again, yes, the way you characterize that is accurate. What I wanted to stress was, I think we're way ahead of that curve with the information that we've already put out publicly.
Okay, I guess my concern is people trying to slow the process down, asking for answers to questions that we don't have yet, that will come as a result of the application moving forward. I specifically would like to hear from the candidates for at large if they support the MWRA application moving forward and not having a delay in this by asking for questions, asking for answers to questions we won't know until it moves forward. So, but we can start with, Mike, and then, but for sure at the end, that's really important to us here at Union Point, the NWRA issue, and I want to make sure that we have an answer from Allison and from Rick about whether or not they support it moving forward.
Thank you. Yes, I'm in favor of supporting this moving forward. I've always been in favor of supporting moving forward, and I think it's needed. I mean, I've been on the council for 23 years, and every developer that has come in here has said that they were going to find a water source. It hasn't happened. And it's going to be in a week. It's going to be in 2 weeks. It never happened. So that's been going on for years. So I definitely am in favor of this application process. Why wouldn't we do it? As far as the input, I mean, I would never deny the public input. I wouldn't want to hold things up, but I want to hear from the public. I want to hear what they have to say on it. But I'm not looking to drag things around.
But there are people who are asking answers to questions that are not out there yet, and that's going to hold the process.
What people just?
I'm just hearing from different groups who, what's the rate going to be?
And those are things we don't know.
Exactly.
We don't know that.
But they're trying to hold up what the application moving forward. And that's not going to be good for us here at Union Point.
And we see that a lot with, any project that we have. We go through that with everything, the amount of time and on there through the different, departments that it goes through, planning, zoning, and all of that. But, it does have to be done. We need it done. I understand the urgency up here. It does need to be done. Something has to be done soon with everything. But the town's very proactive, as the mayor said, on our water and sewer improvements and the money that we've spent and the council has approved.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Well, I'm happy to report that 2 weeks ago, the ball actually has already been started on the application process. We had in front of the DPW committee of the council, of which I'm vice chair, a measure from the mayor's office, which ultimately is asking the town council to support their beginning the process, beginning the application. As somebody mentioned, it's about a 2-year process. And it's that sounds long, but as you heard from my bio, I've been in government my whole life. Believe me, I know from red tape. So over the next 2 years, we're going to have a lot of information thrown at us and a lot of questions asked and answered. And none of that's going to come to fruition if we don't get the ball started. So I was very excited to see that measure before the DPW committee. We'll probably we're going to take it up again, and then it will come before the whole town council, and the council will then vote on that measure. But I want to stress that measure simply allows the town, allows the administration to go forward with the project, with the application process. So I'm very much in support. There's no way we're on any number of reasons we need to find a new water source. I think the MWRA is a reasonable one. I think it's very doable for us. I think right now, as a matter of fact, the application is free. Is that true, Mr. Mayor?
The acceptance,
So,
28 million I referenced.
correct.
Minimum.
So getting that ball rolling is important, and it's also not only for current projects, but future projects, because we're gonna have the opportunity, not the burden. I stress that because a lot of people say, oh, we can't do that because of our infrastructure. We're gonna have the opportunity to improve our infrastructure mightily over the course of potentially bringing in the MWRA. So that's not only gonna help projects like the one we're in the middle of tonight, right? That's gonna help things going forward. So without being more long-winded, I guess I'll answer the question and say yes, but thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, Heidi. If you take a look at the U.S. Census data that we have gathered from Weymouth, there are 2 things I can point out to you just from memory. In the 1940s, we experienced the second highest increase of people moving into Weymouth right after World War II. The highest increase was from 2010 to 2020, the last decade we have data for. If you looked at a map of that same data for every community around us in Massachusetts, they had that same exact thing happen at that same exact point in history. The point I'm trying to make is we cannot seal off Weymouth from change, from the different things that are happening in our economy, from the demands that people are making of the marketplace these days. Weymouth needs to respond and come up with solutions for these problems that we face and every other community faces as well. We want to remain competitive and we want to remain progressive as well. I truly believe that moving this measure forward and vetting it properly, making sure that we have public input, making sure that we have a robust discussion amongst us as counselors, as leaders of this community, and by doing that, lead us to a final decision whether to vote yea or nay after the process has been completed. I will say again, we need to find solutions to the problems we face today. The answer to this cannot be, we cannot just say no to the future. It's coming whether we want it to or not. We need to prepare for the day that we have to meet these challenges head on. We need to be proactive, and I believe that's what this town council is doing. And we're doing it, the common moniker is that government is slow. I prefer to say government is deliberate, and it's deliberate for a reason. We are deliberate, we are deliberating, and we are looking to the logical step forward for this community. Thank you.
I just actually have a question about the question, and that is we're talking about MWRA, but I was under the impression that there was a report being run that cost many, many thousands of dollars to evaluate Aquarian from Brockton to the base, and I never saw that report, and I wonder if that's available.
Well, I think the reference to that Aquarian is the alternatives analysis that the master developer is required to do, that goes back to the 2014 enabling legislation, and maybe even beyond, they were to provide an alternatives analysis on what the options to get water here are, and that was one of the options.
Did we ever receive that report out?
I think they're working on both of these at the same
It's a
time.
concurrent, okay,
Yes.
okay, simultaneous,
So
okay.
the question is, do you support the MWRA application moving forward?
Absolutely, I don't support procedural
Oh, boy.
procedural delays are certainly not anything that the council should be engaging in, whether to, and this has already been a project that's been going on and on for many, many years, but at the same time, we do have questions from the community who feel a little blindsided because they received a letter with their water bill saying to them they thought MWRA was a done thing. So I do think that we need a little bit more public input, or at least some kind of public meeting so that they can get brought up to speed as to where we are. But as far as delaying this, I don't see a need to. I think Ted Langell was gonna go back and make sure that some of the language about all of this was run past the solicitor so that we didn't get into a jam with the legalese. But once that is, I think, all ready to roll, the application is likely to be approved.
Short answer from my perspective is, yes, I'm fully supportive of us connecting to the MWRA. For the reasons that I had stated earlier when I kind of jumped the gun, but the truth of the matter is it's not because we need it right now, but it is something that we're going to end up needing way in the future, and right now is the time to do it, especially where the application fees are being waived the way they are.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we are moving on to our closing remarks. It's been 70 minutes, and I know that, that we can't hold you guys here for too long, so I would like quickly everybody to go down the line and tell me why we should vote for you.
All right, so,
In 2 minutes or less, please.
all right, I will. So I think it's time. It's time for new leaders, new voices, youth, energy. I'm not a naive person or a candidate, not at all. But I will also rebut what Mayor Headland said. He's saying that, yeah, of course, to form our own electric utility, which is not what I said. I said internet utility. To form our own electric utility would be unfeasible, of course. It's too expensive, too big. But to join build, if you're saying you can join one municipal water utility, but you can't join a municipal internet utility, you can't tell me that's impossible. And I don't think people expect me to be a magician. On the issues that we're going to set big goals in my administration. We're going to work together. And on the things that we can't do, it's just not going to go away and nobody's going to ever hear about it again. You're going to know why we can't do those things. I'm going to have an open line of communication to the town. I want to work with you. I want to fight for you. I'm going to have you all your voices represented in my administration at the table while we make the most important decisions that are going to affect this town moving forward. Like I said before, I don't accept campaign contributions from developers in town, stuff like that. Like, it's not that it's some kind of corruption or something. It's just that it's an appearance. You know what I mean? Like, you have to sit down with these developers and you have to hash out deals, and I won't accept anything from them. 2, I'll keep my personal business outside of Weymouth. Like, I'm not gonna be flipping houses and stuff while I'm mayor. I want to fight for you. I want to use the knowledge of this town and the people that know this town best and put them in positions to succeed and empower them. We have great people on our town council, in our school committees, and in our school system. I'd be a mayor for the schools, a big time, a pro-union mayor. I'm a leader, I'm a fighter. I think it's time for a new mayor here in Weymouth, and I hope you'll vote for me on November 7th.
Thank you, Ed.
So if I took you out of context, I apologize, Ed. I know that at the last forum last week, you did say we could sell power to our neighbors if we had our own municipality and turn it into a money maker. So that's maybe why I led to believe you were talking about that again. I would just say take a look at the track record that we've built over the last 8 years. As I mentioned earlier when I was driving here, I was thinking about having just recently discovered on the internet the candidates forum you held 8 years ago. I believe it was downstairs. And it was a very interesting camera angle. This was 8 years ago with Mayor Kay. Very interesting camera angle, because all you could see is our heads. The cameras, I think, must have been mounted on the table. But if you go back and visit that, everything I laid out as a vision then, it's almost like Nostradamus-like. It's incredible. It really was amazing to watch, and it took me 7 years to rediscover it. Some of the things I talked about there is how this community was a little bit complacent in going after grants. One of the things we've been able to be incredibly successful at is securing state grants for things like our new library, public safety grants, the Beach Connection Coastal Embankment Stabilization Project had been identified as a town project since 1979 in its master plan, and we never once went after a Seaport Economic Development grant. MassWorks grants that have led to the work in the landing and elsewhere here in town. We were very complacent. I can't take sole credit. I knew where the grants were, but I have good staff. They're able to fill out the applications and make it successful. We talked about roads and sidewalks. I told you folks back then that one of my motivations as a resident and a citizen was that I want to see our roads fixed up. I know there's new arrivals here in Union Point, but if anyone lived here beyond 8 years ago and looked at the condition of the roads, whether it was Green Street, Commercial Street, Broad Street, they looked then like Columbia Square looks like now practically. And we've been able to get our road and construction, our Pave the Way program, this WEY by the way, the Pave the Way program, we're up to $8 million a year in paving. We had never done more than $1.2 million traditionally. I remember talking about Columbia Square, and I said, why does the parking lot look like the U.S. Air Force strafed it? We got that parking lot done in my first few months in office. And we moved ahead at that point, and I had Dave Madden tell me before he passed away that he regretted not moving forward with the Columbia Square infrastructure work. I did tell him, by the way, that he could be there to flip the lights on when we were ready to activate, and he said, well, thank you. And I said, well, that's because the picture in the ledger will be of you turning it on if it doesn't work right. We actually talked about ambulance contracts. The ambulance contracts were given out in a kind of a no-bid situation to be, and they were campaign contributors. I said, we're going to open up that process. We got an ambulance service that is second to none in the state right now, partly because they're local, partly because they want to get their foot in the door, but they give us the best deal practically in the state right now. We talked about that. For some reason, the Ledger decided that was going to be the defining issue in the mayor's campaign 8 years ago. I don't know why it was ambulance contracts, but it was. The environmental improvements I talked about, there's too many to list right now. I hope you take a look at the handout we brought, but very proud of what we've done on the environmental front. We had a fish kill in Jackson Square. It's caused millions of herring to die over the last 40, 50 years from a poorly engineered flood control project that was identified by the town to fix for 40 to 50 years. We finally got that done. Restoration of the salt marsh, taking a polluted incinerator down. These are things we couldn't get done in the past if it weren't for being aggressive with grants, if it weren't for the fiscal management team that we have there. I give our town Chief of Staff, Ted Langell, a lot of credit for what he's been able to do and how we've managed our debt service. That's given me the luxury of looking good and getting all these town-wide improvements done. Have we been right on everything? Absolutely not. I can have a couple things I'd like a do-over on, Allison and I. That's probably the only thing we would agree on. But again, Ted Williams didn't bat 1,000 either, right? But I think overall the record and what we've done for the town's infrastructure, getting a school done. I don't think the voters of this town would not have placed the trust in previous administrations for debt exclusion override if they hadn't seen, working with the council, what we had been getting done at the time that went on the ballot to get that school project done. So I would just say, take a peek at that. If you like what we've done, then you want to give me another vote, I'm fine with it. If you take a look at that, you don't like it, then you want an alternative and look for some new leadership, that's great too. And I'll
You
come up
have
with
that
one.
online somewhere because there weren't enough copies for everybody.
We'll make
You know.
sure we get it online.
And- Yeah, okay.
Jared, you're fighting.
But I mean, a lot of people.
Well, thanks for having us, and we really appreciate the fact that this has evolved into, in an age of where civic engagement is
Anybody else want
dying,
one?
that this is one of the more, is the now most active civic organizations in the
You
town.
just gave me.
And you can run back and tell NWCA I said that, great, but it's the truth. And I'm glad that you guys are here tonight because you brought the average age down by about 8 months.
I'd also like to thank everybody for being here this evening. This is great to see everybody out. This echo the mayor that the involvement is just great up here to see everybody actually taking part in the town. I'd like to thank Heidi Anderson, Southfield Association, Faring Way for hosting this, and again, all you people being here this evening. Serving as your councilor at large for the past 3 years, a lot has changed in the town, but one thing has not changed is my commitment to you. I've always made the residents of Weymouth a top priority of mine as your councilor at large. I believe you need to be responsive to your constituents. Whether large, small, if they're reaching out to you, the problem's large to them. I pride myself on a proven record. I truly believe my 23 years experience is an asset to the council as we move forward. I want to continue moving Weymouth in a positive direction. Exciting times here at Union Point over the last year with the new master developer in place, rezoning of land and non-rezoning of land. Great things are happening because of all of you being a strong voice for your community and a partnership of the mayor, his administration, and town council working together to move Union Point and Southfield in a positive direction. This is a top priority of mine as we move forward. Union Point, Southfield is a place people want to live. Property values have never been higher. Property is selling for top dollar. People want a safe environment to live. First-class recreation facilities, fields, level rink. This is a beautiful facility we are in tonight here. I want to continue to be a strong voice for the Weymouth residents as your councilor at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
In case anyone ever has a chance to be up here at this table, I'm going to make a suggestion. The microphone you want is the silver one with the blue at the bottom. Hasn't given Chris and I a problem tonight, so be on the lookout for the best microphone. Now, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I want to thank Heidi and your neighborhood organization. It's amazing to see a group like this. I was joking around earlier in the evening that I was so excited to be here because this is one of the last and really only events of the campaign season. So it was great, and I appreciate you having me. The question at hand is, why would you vote for me for town councilor at large? And you know, I did have to think about that. I was glad that the folks in front of me were a little more long-winded, but you know, I think in short, because experience matters. You know, I've been involved in Weymouth government from essentially my entire life. I was born here, and I watched my mother and father, who were active over in North Weymouth with the NWCA and groups like that, and I learned lessons. And one of the biggest lessons I learned was watching my father and some volunteers defeat the Clean Harbors toxic waste incinerator over in the Fall River Basin. It was about a 14-year fight, which the kids in my family were involved in whether we liked it or not. And what I took away from it was that, you know, there's no government agency or corporate agency or really any power that's stronger than the people. And I mean it when I say that, and maybe it sounds corny, but I saw it happen firsthand. It was a group of volunteers who shut down a toxic waste incinerator that was planning on burning the 8 deadliest PCBs that there were. If it wasn't for that citizens' effort, it would be burning over there in the Fall River Basin today. So going from that, that's the lessons I learned. Honestly, I say it all the time, I didn't have a chance. I had to go into government, I had to go into public service. That's where I went on to study political science, public administration. I achieved an advanced postgraduate degree in government performance management. And I used that on my first term in the town council, and I think I did a great job. And a couple of years ago, there was an open seat, and people said, well, why don't you give it another chance? And I did, and a lot of people said, why would you do that? And I said, because there's so many exciting things going on in town. I believed it then, and I believed it now. I wanted to be a part of what we have going on, the beautiful park improvements, new libraries, new schools. You know, one of these guys mentioned earlier, people come from out of town, they're impressed with our town. Hasn't always been like that. So to be a part of that is an honor. I look forward to continuing that. You know, one of the things I like most, and some people saw it earlier, is talking to folks, and I can talk at length. But what I really like is listening and learning what you need as residents, what you need as citizens, and I look forward to continuing that. And I'll just leave you with something I learned a long time ago, and actually my my campaign chairman is one of the big influence in my life, one of those guys who was over fighting the toxic incinerator. He taught me this: when people lead, leaders follow. So you can always count on me to listen and to make decisions based on not only what I know, but what I'm hearing. And you can always count on me to be there. I know we have a lot of work to do over here at the base. I know we have a lot to do finding water and looking towards the future of this town. And I look forward to being a part of it. So that's why you should vote for me for town council. Apologies for the school essay, but thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, Rick.
Heidi, thanks to you and the association for having us here tonight, and our moderator as well for the questions. I began my journey into government actually at a very unlikely point in my life. I was in high school and I got elected to be a representative to the Weymouth School Committee, and I was actually unopposed, so it was uncontested. I served there for several years, watching every school committee member meeting that was going on during that time in the depths of the economic recession of the late 2000s, early 2010s. And we saw town government suffer from the worst economic catastrophe this nation has ever seen, albeit maybe the Great Depression. Our free cash was down to almost $100,000 in 2008. Now it's in the millions of dollars. Southfield was at a standstill. It was deadlocked. Now it's alive and well, and it's heading towards a successful future. What I'm saying is in 2017, I had the honor of being elected to the town council, serving with a lot of the same members of town government that I had worked with as a student representative at that time. And it was amazing to see what we could do. I remember this at the school committee chair back during the recession had said, we don't know when things are going to get better, if they'll ever get better. They got better because we worked at it. We got better because this community has heart. We try things, we try to solve we reach solutions, and we do it together each and every time. I believe that this community has a bright future ahead of it. We just have to keep moving forward. We need to find solutions to today's problems and work together to reach a new tomorrow for everyone in this community. I'm committed to working with the Union Point community on everything moving forward. I will be responsive. I will meet with you whenever you want, but to make sure that we have a successful relationship together as your local government representative and you as my constituents. I truly look forward to doing that. My name is Chris Heffernan. I'm number 3 on the ballot, and I hope for your support in next month's election. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we continue on, I need to read a statement from Fred Happel, who feels awful that he could not be here tonight, okay? Fred wanted to apologize and thank you for letting me present this short statement that I'm going to read about him. He lives here in South Weymouth and owns a house that abuts Union Point. He graduated from Weymouth North High School, and after high school received a BA from the University of Massachusetts, Boston. He's currently employed at the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office, married to his lovely wife, Julie. He has 2 sons. He's the chair right now of the Public Safety Committee and the vice chair of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Committee. He believes that he's been involved in many positive changes to Union Point and South Weymouth, including the local rezoning, helping redevelop Columbia Square improvements, many roads, sidewalk, and drainage improvements. He also is very excited that there's a new middle school. I believe we have somebody here who attends that school. There's a new fire station in town, new library, and lots of improvements to the park. He's been very involved civically. He has the Weymouth Irish Heritage Day parade. He fundraises did the fundraising for the Hamilton School Playground. He works with the area food bank, the Coops Troops Foundation. He does a lot of work out in the community. He says that he will continue to be an advocate to make sure town services will increase as the population does. He says we need to make sure public safety, our schools, and other services are second to none. He hopes to have the privilege to continue serving the town of Weymouth, and he wants to thank everybody who came out tonight, and he humbly asks for your vote on November 7th. That's Fred Happel, and he's number 6 on the ballot. Thank you. Now, we'll continue on with Allison and Rick, please.
Thanks, Heidi. I do want to thank you, Heidi, and everybody here for allowing us the opportunity to present tonight. I want to say that one of the things that impresses me most about the development project up here is, for me, the biggest hurdle of all was achieved, and that was winning over the support of the abutters and the neighbors. This is not always the case, but this is an exemplary project, and from what I've seen of Mr. Tuhig when he's presented, he's been very candid, and sometimes says things that maybe politicians don't want to hear, but he's trying to be proactive and not delivering or promising to deliver something that he simply can't. So I appreciate that. And while canvassing for signatures this summer, there wasn't a lot of question about the base, but those who did, they don't seem to have a lot of information. And one of the things that I do, and I love to do, is to participate with our neighborhood groups. And I would love it if the folks up here at Union Point, if there are ever activities going on in the community, anything on the agendas of town council or some of the other meetings, it'd be wonderful if you could join us. It's a great opportunity not just to meet your fellow Weymouthites, but to see that some of the joys and some of the problems are very similar from village to village. And as we move forward, I would love to be able to share more of the good news with constituents who don't live here, so that they understand that Union Point is Weymouth, Weymouth is Union Point, and this is going to be a project that impacts all of us, and certainly I think will benefit all of us if we can keep it on track. One thing I also want to say is that with one of the issues that was brought up earlier was about rates. Well, this is a problem for some folks. They're on lower to middle income, and they're worried that they might be priced out because of the cost of water. But I do think there are amenities that perhaps could offset some of that cost factor in their minds. Now, according to the Interbasin Transfer Act, no community joining the MWRA may offline any viable water source. And so, contrary to public statements, you cannot take Whitman's Pond in South Cove or Great Pond offline. However, I think it would be wonderful, since MWRA has on multiple occasions said they have more water than they know what to do with, if we could negotiate offlining Whitman's Pond in South Cove. I think that would be a huge asset to the community, and I'd love to work on that with the council. Even if unelected, that's fine, I'll be there. And in closing, I just want to be mindful of the fact that this community is a blank slate right now, and that's what's so exciting. It could be anything, but we know we have a lot of folks commuting up from New York and Connecticut, heading to the Cape, and wouldn't it be wonderful to have a sign directing people to Union Point for activities up here? Who knows, could be something like Austin, Texas in this space. We don't know, and that's what's so exciting. But I do think that there's great opportunity for this space to be sort of the gateway to the South Shore, and I just look forward to being part of it. I'd like to thank my team who helped me campaign. They've been tireless. You may have seen some of them riding bikes around up here, miles and miles, delivering literature. So I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. And I also want to thank the council, the sitting council, who've been so gracious in allowing me and members of my community group to present. We've never been turned away, and I appreciate your patience and being so receptive to our request to present. Thank all of you.
So why would you want to vote for me? And I would tell you that for the most part, I take a look at what's been going on in Weymouth right now with the infrastructure that's been happening, the roads, the water, the sewer, the upgrades that are happening, the parks, the ball fields, the library, the Chapman School. We're moving in a great direction. What's happening here at Union Point, I mentioned before, 5% right now, 5% of the population of Weymouth is right here at Union Point. That's going to only grow as a percentage of the population of Weymouth. And I never want to lose sight of the fact that you guys are not just simply Union Point and you're out there. You're Weymouth. And so, and I would respectfully disagree with the idea that we've got a blank slate. We've got a rich history here in the town. And I think that we should be proud of that history. I think that we've got a lot of stuff here that has been part of Weymouth for decades, if not for centuries, frankly, and a reason that people are coming to the South Shore, and I want to see that that continues. Something that I really want to make sure that I mention as well, as we're talking about the direction the town is moving in. Anybody who read the Patriot Ledger, and I'm not sure how many people still read the Patriot Ledger anymore, unfortunately, but if you read the Patriot Ledger, this past weekend had a statistic or a report that came through that crime throughout Massachusetts is up 7%. Throughout the South Shore, it's up about 4%. Braintree, it's up 31%. Quincy, 9%. Hanover, 41%. Hanson, 43%. Weymouth, down 12%. That's a testament to the administration of the town council, to the support that they've had for our public safety officers here in the town. I want to see that continue. I don't want to throw rocks. I don't want to be that obstacle. As I said before, I'm a collaborator. I want to make sure that things continue moving in the same direction. I would humbly ask for your vote November 7th. I'm number 1 on the ballot.
Thank you very much. And now we have something from our youth committee. They want to make a special announcement.
Please remember to vote November 7th at Thomas Hamilton Elementary School. If you will be out of town or unable to vote on that day, you can vote October 30th or November 3rd at the clerk's office in Town Hall from the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. We can't vote, but you can.
I want to say thank you to everybody for attending. Thank you very much for the co-moderator. Believe it or not, this young man is 12 years old. He will be 13 next week, so let's wish him a early happy birthday. He has a great future in front of him, as do these young ladies over here. And we have something sweet for everybody up here at the table. We have some cookies that say support Union Point with the outline of the airplane, the A4. But I want to tell you that these cookies were made by a Weymouth High School graduate. Her name is Justine Rhoda of Sweet Standards, and she's going to be on the Food Network next week on the Holiday Baking Championship on November 6th. And then maybe we could get a picture with our youth committee, with everybody up here. That would be great. Thank you.
All right, take your time. Remember, vote for me and I'll sing you Oh, yeah.
Seen it. I go up to my son's house and there's plants and stuff all over the place. Yeah.